Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple. The South American Super Classico took center stage in the Copa America semi-finals as the home team Brazil faced off against Argentina, and today we'll be providing an in-game analysis. In the end, the match ended 2-0 to Brazil thanks to goals from Jesus and Firmino. But what tactics were used by Tite and Scaloni? Let's take a look. Just quickly before then, if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. This channel is made for people like you, football lovers, so if you're interested in joining the community, go ahead and hit subscribe. Now, let's get into it. We'll start with the formations. On paper, Brazil were lined up in a 4-2-3-1, with a back four of Alves, Sandro, Marquinhos and Thiago Silva. The midfield was Arthur, Casemiro and Coutinho, with Everton and Jesus providing the width and Firmino led the line. For Argentina, on paper the shape was a loose 4-3-3, with Foyth and Tagliafico as fullbacks, and Otamendi and Petzela as centre-backs. Paredes, Acuna and De Paul made up the midfield, with Martinez, Aguero and Messi up top. Now, let's get into the tactics. We'll start off with what Brazil did offensively and how Argentina looked to counter that. In the first half especially, Brazil looked to play out from the back. Dani Alves and Alex Sandro were often the outball on the outside, with one of them usually dropping deep to start the build-up, whilst the other fullback would give them vertical depth by advancing up the pitch. What this would do is draw the press from Argentina forwards, who would often use their whole front three during the press. If Brazil's route to the fullbacks was cut off, they had a double pivot of Arthur and Casemiro, and this would give the centre-backs passing options forward. And it would usually be Arthur who picked the ball up off the centre-backs to then advance the ball up the pitch. And here's where Argentina started to run into a couple of problems defensively. When pressing, usually you'd want to press as a team, from the forwards to the midfield to the defenders. This compacts the space so the opposition can't play through the press. But Firmino was great at creating vertical depth, which would draw the Argentina centre-backs deep. So Argentina responded one of two ways, which would both cause problems. If the midfield pressed high up, it left a gap between the defense and the midfield, and Coutinho would be freed up between the lines. But if the midfield dropped deep, Coutinho would drop deeper as well, to try and create from there, and this would give him time during the midfield to look for incisive passes. From here, they would often look to use the flanks. This is because, if this was a quick build-up, the Argentina forwards were slow to drop back, and with Alves and Sandro being highly attacking, it would create a 2 vs 2 or 1 vs 1 on the flanks. Argentina often tried to counter this by dropping into a 4-4-2, but this would leave them light in the centre, so usually they ended up staying central and giving up the flanks. If they had the time, they would drop into a 4-1-4-1 during sustained pressure. But either way, even when the ball was on the far side, Brazil always looked to keep at least one man wide. And this style of play paid dividends for the first goal. The wide play from Alves is evident, as he beats two men, which briefly creates a 2 vs 1 in the wide areas. He then feeds it wide to Firmino, who showed great interchange with Jesus, and gets the cross in for the goal. At the same time, Brazil were controlled and never overcommitted. They achieved this by keeping their centre-backs and defensive midfielders in position when they were on the ball. Let's move on to Argentina. What were their attacking ploys? Argentina also tried to build up, but with a couple of key differences compared to Brazil. The first thing to note is the role of the fullbacks. Tagliafico is comfortable going both ways, but Foyth is usually a centre-back, so his attacking range is limited. This immediately limits the width Argentina can attack with. So this means that their attack usually had to go through the centre exclusively. Paredes was the first wave of play, and the ball would usually go through him, but generally the Argentina build-up shape looked like a 2-3-3-2. During this phase, Brazil would alternate between a high press and a deep 4-2-3-1. Because of their lack of width, Argentina would often rely on Messi to drop deep and build up, as we have discussed in a previous video that's linked in the cards now. Scaloni often got Acuna or De Paul to drop into a half space in order to draw attention away from the centre to give Messi and Paredes more space. But Brazil's double pivot dealt with this well. They always kept Messi in front of the shield, never allowing him between the lines. So if Messi dropped deep, the team pressed higher, and if he pushed up, they would drop deeper, but always kept him ahead of the two defensive midfielders. This only got worse when Argentina were looking for a goal, as they lost their shape completely. Messi would drop deep, only to find the other midfielders had pushed high in search of a goal, leaving him no passing options. This insistence on central play greatly limited their options, and they only found success here if they used quick one-touch passing to link up play with the forwards and create room between the lines. Things improved slightly as Di Maria came on, giving them genuine width on the left, and he got into a couple of dangerous situations. As Argentina committed more numbers forward, Brazil remained dangerous on the break, keeping numbers high in order to counterattack, and this eventually paid off as Firmino killed off the tie. In the end, it was a well-deserved victory for Brazil, who will look to win the Copa America on home soil. Please note, to avoid making the video too long, we only touched on the major tactics. I'd love to hear anything else you noticed in the comments below. That's all from us today. Hit like if you enjoyed this, and subscribe if you want more football content throughout the summer. That's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.